Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Welcome back. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the beautiful little Starrett antique indicator number 64. Very recently I received an email and he asked me, do I have a number 64 Starrett indicator? And this is the number 64 indicator. I said, well, I'm not sure. I said, I've got several of the old needle type Starrett indicators. In fact, I've even done a video on them, but this is the number 564, and actually I have two of those. So I didn't want him to send me another one of these, but he said, no, it's a little different. So it arrived in the mail. Again, thank you, Chris. And this is really a beautiful little instrument. Notice how long the needle is, which I think helps improve the accuracy. So this is a test indicator, of course not a dial indicator. You don't see a dial on it, do you? So I went to my professional library and pulled out my 1924 Starrett catalog. So this catalog is what? 100 years old. And sure enough, there it is, the number 64, a complete description of what it is and some beautiful examples here of how to use it. Notice that it can also be used with a surface gauge, and it was $3 back then, which would have been a lot of money, and that's without the extra holder here. Just the indicator itself, which I showed you recently, is $3. So I'll put some pictures at the end of the video if you want to read the text here or examine these three views just a little bit better than what you can see it right now. So this indicator appeared in their catalogs until about the mid-30s, and then the last word indicator appeared, and it has been there ever since. And one thing I want to tell you is that the last word indicator was around since about 1905 or so. It was not invented by Starrett. It was invented by Henry Lowe, and I'm going to show you the patent on that, and there were many improvement patents over the years, but this ubiquitous, beautiful little indicator essentially replaced this. Well, how did Starrett get a hold of it? They bought the company. They bought Lowe Industries, or whatever it was called, that made several different products, and that's how they acquired the rights and the patents and probably the tooling to make this little indicator. So here is Henry Lowe's 1915 patent. Notice how low the patent number is. And as I said, there are several more of these if you want to look them up, because improvements were constantly made over the years. So the number 64 has three little contact points here. 1, 2, and 3, but to use this one we have to reverse the direction of the spring, and that is done by just turning this tiny little knurl. Yeah, it's got a knurl on it. See the spring move? And now it can be used in that direction. Pretty awesome. So these were the parts that were available at extra cost, but actually this is a Brown & Sharp and this is Starrett, so I kind of cobbled this together with parts that I have here in my shop, and it works just fine. And if you look at the back side of this, it's simply a little clamp that can be clamped on anything round or rectangular. So you do not really need this. You could clamp this onto your lathe tool holder or just about any place that you wanted to. But I have it all fitted up to fit on this rod, and then we'll step over to the closing lathe in a minute and I'll show you some different ways of using it. See, that clamps on just like that. It can be moved up and down or fastened onto this little rod. Just a lot of different ways of configuring it. So over the years I've done a bunch of videos using these. So again, here's the 64 Starrett, the 564 Starrett, and then I have several of these marked ideal, and I've used these in videos also. They're pretty awesome. I think they're a dime a dozen. There's just a lot of them around, so I won't go over that. And the Koch I have used, strictly mechanical, That's pretty neat, and that came from Dave Clark years ago. All right, enough about the history here. Okay, look at the setup that I've got here. I took a collar or a bushing and I have it in the 3-jaw chuck, and I just want to check for the heck of it to see if the face of it is running true, and I believe it is. So the tip of the indicator is up against the face, and it's running very true. I don't think you can see that, so I'm going to zero in on the little graduations here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, watch the graduations now as I rotate it a couple revolutions. So we're within a couple thousandths. Now, if I were to face the work off and check again, I'm sure it would run perfect. But there's one example of how you could use the little indicator. Next, I will indicate the bore of this little bushing. So I'll move the entire carriage up into the hole, and then I'm going to back the cross slide off. Watch the needle now. I'll bring it to approximately 0, and now I'm going to rotate the chuck. And you can see that I'm what? Almost 20 thousandths off. So it would have to be bored or set up in a 4-jaw or something like that to true it up. I believe I failed to mention that the little needle can go 15 thousandths on either side of 0, or a total of 30 thousandths movement. Now this is probably the most common way of using an indicator, just to check to see how true the work is running. Now I'm in a 3-jaw chuck, so I cannot really adjust it, but I will move the cross slide in and out and bring it into 0. And now I will rotate the chuck. I'll zoom in on that, but it looks like about 2,000. Okay, take a gander now. 2 thousandths total indicator run out. That's enough on the lathe. One more thing to show you over at the bench. As shown in the Starrett catalog, the indicator can be used in conjunction with the surface gauge, or you could put it on a height gauge for that matter as well. So all I'm going to do here is just a simple indicator test of how true or how level or how parallel to the granite surface plate have I placed this workpiece in this little vise. So I'll bring the little tip up right here and run it across. I hope I can get that all in the camera frame. Okie doke, the tip of the indicator is on the work, and with the adjustment screw I will lower the indicator until we get a 0. I think I got it. And then I'll just move the work from one end to the other like that, and you can see that I'm what, about 20 thousandths. I'll zoom in on that so we can have another gander at it. We're dealing with just a little bit of parallax error there, but we're not going to worry about it. Watch the tip of the needle. Eight thousandths, 6 thousandths. I guess it's about 6 thousandths. And one last time. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. You know, our predecessor, machinist friends, 100 years ago or more, could do very, very accurate work with tools that you might think of as primitive, like what I just showed you here, compared to a new electronic Mitutoyo indicator, but they could really do accurate work. Take a look at some of the things that they made 100 years ago. Now, I would like you to stand by if you would, and I'll show you some pictures out of this book and some patents and different things like that. That'll be extra credit at the end. Have fun in your shop. I'm sure having fun in mine. This is Mr. Pete saying so long for now. Oh, one more thing. I mentioned that I did other videos on these little mechanical indicators, so at the end here I'll also put some still pictures of the titles of those videos if you're interested in going back into the archives.